The Ideal Made Real, Chapter 11. Talk, Health, Happiness, and Prosperity. Talk happiness. When things look dark, talk happiness. When things look bright, talk more happiness. When others are sad, insist on being glad. Talk happiness, and they will soon feel better. Talk happiness, it pays in every shape and form and manner. Give sunshine to others, and others will be more than pleased to give sunshine to you. Talk happiness, and your health will be better, your mind will be brighter, and your personality far more attractive. But the qualities that happiness will give to you will also be given to those who have the pleasure to listen to you when you talk happiness. Talk happiness, and you will always remain in a happy frame of mind. You will encourage thousands of others to do the same. You will become a fountain of joy in the midst of the garden of human life. And who can tell how many flowers of kindness and joy unfolded their rare and tender beauty because you were there? When others have lost courage, talk happiness. The future is bright for everybody. Talk happiness, and you turn on the light in their pathway, and they will see the better things that are before them. When the mind is depressed, it is blinded. It sees only the darkness. But when the light of joy is admitted, everything is changed. Therefore, talk happiness to all persons and on all occasions. We cannot have too much light in the world, and the more we talk happiness, the more light we produce wherever we may be. What greater pleasure could anyone desire than to realize that he has eased the way for thousands and sent the sunbeams and joy into the mental world of tens of thousands? You can do this by talking happiness. Thus, by constantly talking happiness, you produce perpetual increase in your own happiness. What we give in abundance always returns in abundance. That is, when we give in the right spirit. And he who talks happiness is always in the right spirit. When in the midst of discord, trouble, or confusion, talk happiness. Harmony will soon be restored. The majority can easily change their minds for the better when someone takes the lead. You can take the lead by talking happiness. Talk prosperity. When times are not good, man himself must make them better, and he can make them better by doing his best and having faith in that power that produces prosperity. When men have faith in prosperity, they will think prosperity, live prosperity, and thus do that which produces prosperity. And you can give men faith in prosperity by constantly talking prosperity. They may not listen at first, but perseverance always wins. Prosperity is extremely attractive, and the more you impress it upon the minds of others, the more attractive it will become, until no one can resist it. And when we admit the idea of prosperity into our own minds, we will from that moment begin to produce prosperity. Think prosperity, talk prosperity, and live prosperity, and you will rise in the scale no matter what the circumstances may be. Hold to the power that produces abundance by having unbounded faith in that power, and you will overcome all adversity and reach the highest goals you have in view. The fear of failure produces more failure than all other causes combined. You can remove that fear by talking prosperity. Talk health. It is the best medicine. When people stop talking sickness, they will stop getting sick. Talk health and stay well. Talk health to the person who is sick, and you will cause him to think health. He who thinks health will live health, and he who lives health will produce health. When your associates take delight in relating minutely everything they know about the ills of the community, purify the muddy waters of their conversation by talking health. Insist on talking health. Prove that there is more health than sickness, and that therefore health is the more important subject. The majority rules. Health is in the majority. Increase that majority by talking more health. Take the lead in this manner of conversation, and be positively determined to continue in the lead. Others will soon follow, and when they do, sickness will diminish more and more until it becomes practically unknown among those who have the privilege to live in your circle. When the sins of the world are in evidence, talk virtue. When the power of virtue is in evidence, talk more virtue. Eternally emphasize the good. Give it more and more power, and it will soon become sufficiently strong to produce the ideal of power that you wish to make real. Talk virtue, and people will think of virtue. They will dwell more and more upon the beauty of virtue. Ere long, they will desire virtue, and that desire will become stronger and stronger until it thrills every atom in human life. To desire virtue is to become virtuous. To live for the attainment of purity is to place in action all the purifying elements in your being, and you will soon realize that perfectly clean condition that every awakened mind has learned to worship. You can purify the minds of thousands by constantly talking virtue, and these thousands will in turn convey the power of virtue to as many thousand times thousands more. Talk virtue eternally, and there is no end to the good that you may do. When the world seems bad, talk virtue. The power of good is not gone. It is just as great as it ever was, and it is here and there and everywhere. You can open the mind of man to the mighty influx of this power by eternally talking virtue. You can, through the proper use of your words, change the tide of human thought. You can cause all mankind to desire virtue by forever talking virtue. On the surface, many things may seem to be what they ought not to be, but the surface is not all there is. It is an insignificant part of the whole. There is a hidden richness in life that the many do not see, because their attention has never been turned in that direction. You can lead mankind into the gold mines of the mind and into the diamond fields of the soul, and the secret lies in the words you speak. You can guide the mind of man by the way you talk. Talking, therefore, should not be empty, but should ever have a sublime goal in view. Your words point the way, and they who hear what you have to say will, to some degree, be influenced to go whatever way your words may point. Your power, therefore, in directing other minds towards greater and better things is hidden in every word you speak, and how important that that power be wisely employed. We are responsible for every word we express. It will affect somebody either for good or otherwise. Talk sin, sickness, and trouble, and you will cause many to go directly into more sin, sickness, and trouble. Talk health, happiness, and prosperity, and you will cause many to find health, happiness, and prosperity in greater and greater abundance. When the world complains, do not forget to emphasize the great fact that universal good is even now at hand. The complaining mind wears colored glasses. He cannot see things as they are. You can help him to remove those glasses by calling his attention to the fact that things are not what they seem to him. Everything lies in the point of view. Look at things from the right point of view, and you will be happy, cheerful, and optimistic under all sorts of circumstances. But look at things from the wrong point of view, and you will see nothing clearly. Everything will appear to be what it is not. You will thus live in confusion, and your mistakes will be many. Remove this confusion by placing yourself in harmony with eternal good, and you can do this by talking about the good, thinking about the good, and emphasizing most positively every expression of good with which you may come in contact. That which we think of and talk of constantly will multiply and grow in our own world. Talk peace. You will thus not only prevent confusion, but you will remove those confused conditions that may already exist. You can still the storms of life everywhere by talking peace. When man thinks the most of peace, he will be in peace, and he cannot fail to think of peace so long as he is faithfully talking peace. Talk success, and you will inspire everybody with the spirit of success. You will help to turn the energies of life upon the goal of success, and thus you will help all minds to move towards success. Never say that anything is impossible. Talk success, and you help to make everything possible. Everybody should succeed. It is not only the privilege of everybody to succeed, but every person, to be just to himself, must succeed. The fear of failure, however, is the greatest obstacle. You can remove that fear by talking success. Hold the idea of success before every mind with which you come in contact. You will thus become one of the greatest philanthropists in the world. New and greater opportunities may be found everywhere. Talk of these things and forget the missteps of the past. We can leave the lesser that is behind only by pressing on towards the greater that is before. Talk success to everybody, and everybody will press on towards the greater goal of success. Be an inspiration among all minds, and you can be by holding up the light of success, prosperity, and attainment at all times. Use your words in promoting advancement, in awakening new interest in the better side, the brighter side, the sunny side, and turn the mind of man upon those things that can be done. He can who thinks he can, and you help every person to think that he can by talking prosperity and success. Impress the greater upon every mind, and every mind will think the greater. And he who thinks the greater is constantly building for greater things. Emphasize the sunny side in all your speech, and you provide a never-failing antidote for complaints. And since the complaining mind soon becomes the retrogressing mind, this antidote has extreme value. It may change for the better the destiny of anyone when brought squarely before his attention, and this your words can do. When one door closes, another opens, sometimes several. This is the law of life. It is the expression of the law of eternal progress. The whole of nature desires to move forward eternally. The spirit of progress animates everything. Whenever a person loses an opportunity to move forward, this great law proceeds to give him another. This proves that the universe is kind, that everything is for man, and nothing is against him. This being the truth, the man who talks health, happiness, prosperity, power, and progress is working in harmony with the universe and is helping to promote the great purpose of the universe. And who would not occupy a position of such value and importance? Whenever you talk trouble, failure, sickness, or sin, you arraign your own mind against the law of life and the purpose of the universe. You will thereby be against everything, and everything will in consequence be against you. You must, therefore, necessarily fail in everything you undertake to do. But how different everything will be when you turn and move in the other direction. Go with the universe, and all the power of the universe will go with you, and will help you to reach whatever object you may have in view. Harmonize yourself with the laws of life, and you will steadily rise in the scale of life. Nothing can hold you down. Everything you undertake to do, you will accomplish, because everything will be with you. You will reach every ideal, and at the best time and under the best circumstances cause that ideal to become real. When you cease to talk failure and begin to talk success, you invariably meet the turn in the lane. You find that a new world and a better future is in store. Things will take a turn when you take a turn, and you will take a turn when you begin to talk about those things that you desire to realize. Never talk about anything else. The way you talk, you go. The way you talk, others will go. Therefore, talk health, happiness, and prosperity, and help everybody, yourself included, to move towards health, happiness, and prosperity. The power of words is immense, both in the person that speaks and in the person that is spoken to. The simplest way to use this power is to train yourself to talk the things you want. Talk the things that you expect or desire to realize. Talk the things you wish to attain and accomplish. You thus cause the power of words to work for you and with you in gaining the goal you have in mind. Whatever comes, talk health, happiness, and prosperity. Say that you are well. Say that you are happy. Say that you are prosperous. Emphasize everything that is good in life, and the power of the Supreme will cause your words to come true. The Ideal Made Real, Chapter 12. What determines the destiny of man? The destiny of every individual is being hourly created by himself, and what he is to create at any particular time is determined by those ideals that he entertains at that time. The future of a person is not preordained by some external power, nor is fate controlled by some strange, mysterious force that masterminds alone can comprehend and employ. It is ideals that control fate, and all minds have their ideals, wherever in the scale of life they may be. To have ideals is not simply to have dreams or visions of that which lies beyond the attainments of the present, nor is idealism a system of ideas that the practical mind may not have the privilege to entertain. To have ideals is to have definite objects in view, be those objects very high or very low, or anywhere between those extremes. The ideals of any mind are the real wants, the real desires, or the real aims of that mind, and as every normal mind invariably lives, thinks, and works for that which is wanted by his present state of existence, it is evident that every mind must necessarily, either consciously or unconsciously, follow his ideals. When those ideals are low, ordinary, or inferior, the individual will work for the ordinary and the inferior, and the products of his mind will correspond in quality with that for which he is working. Inferior causes will originate in his life, and similar effects will follow. But when those ideals are high and superior, he will work for the superior, he will develop superiority in himself, and he will give superiority to everything that he may produce. Every action that he originates in his life will become a superior cause and will be followed by a similar effect. The destiny of every individual is determined by what he is and by what he does. And what any individual is to be or do is determined by what he is living for, thinking for, or working for. Man is not being made by some outside force. Man is making himself with the power of those forces and elements that he employs in his thought and his work. And in all his efforts, physical or mental, he invariably follows his ideals. He who lives, thinks, and works for the superior becomes superior. He who works for less becomes less. It is therefore evident that any individual may become more, achieve more, secure more, and create for himself a greater and greater destiny by simply beginning to live, think, and work for a superior group of ideals. To have low ideals is to give the creative forces of the system something ordinary to work for. To have high ideals is to give those forces something extraordinary to work for. And the fate of man is the result of what his creative forces hourly produce. Every force in the human system is producing something, and that something will become a part of the individual. It is therefore evident that any individual can constantly improve the power, the quality, and the worth of his being by directing the forces of his system to produce that which has quality and worth. These forces, however, are not directed or controlled by the will. It is the nature of the creative forces in man to produce what the mind desires, wants, needs, or aspires to attain, and the desires and the aspirations of any mind are determined by the ideals that are entertained in that mind. The forces of the system will begin to work for the superior when the mind begins to attain superior ideals. And, since it is the product of these forces that determines both the nature and the destiny of man, a superior nature and a greater destiny may be secured by any individual who will adopt the highest and the most perfect system of idealism that he can possibly comprehend. To entertain superior ideals is to picture in mind and to hold constantly before mind the highest conception that can be formed of everything of which we may be conscious. To mentally dwell in those higher conceptions at all times is to cause the predominating ideas to become superior ideas, and it is the predominating ideas for which we live, think, and work. When the ruling ideas of any mind are superior, the creative force of that mind will produce the superior in every element, faculty, talent, or power in that mind. Greatness will thus be developed in that mind, and the great mind invariably creates a great destiny. To entertain superior ideals is not to dream of the impossible, but to enter into mental contact with those greater possibilities that we are now able to discern, and to have the power to discern an ideal indicates that we have the power to realize that ideal. We do not become conscious of greater possibilities until we have developed sufficient capacity to work out those possibilities into practical, tangible results. Therefore, when we discern the greater, we are ready to attain and achieve the greater. But before we can proceed to do so, what we are ready to do, we must adopt superior ideals, and superior ideals only. When our ideals are superior, we shall constantly think of the superior, because as our ideals are, so is our thinking, and to constantly think of the superior is to steadily grow into the likeness of the superior. When the ideals are very high, all the forces of the system will move towards superior attainments. All things in the life of the individual will work together with greater and greater greatness in view, and continued advancement on a larger and larger scale must inevitably follow. To entertain superior ideals is not simply to desire some larger personal attainment, or to mentally dwell in some belief that is different from the usual beliefs of the world. To entertain superior ideals is to think the very best thoughts and the very greatest thoughts about everything with which we come in contact. Superior idealism is not mere dreaming of the great and the beautiful, but is actual living in mental harmony with the very best we can find in all things, in all persons, in all circumstances, and in all expressions of life. To live in mental harmony with the best we can find everywhere is to create the best in our own mentality and personality. And as we steadily grow into the likeness of that which we think of the most, we will, through ideal thinking, perpetually increase our power, capacity, and worth. In consequence, we will naturally create a greater and a more worthy destiny. The man who becomes much will achieve much, and great achievements invariably build a great destiny. To think of anything that is less than the best, or to mentally dwell with the inferior, is to neutralize the effect of those superior ideals that we have begun to entertain. To secure the greatest results, it is therefore absolutely necessary to entertain superior ideals only, and to cease all recognition of inferiority or imperfection. The reason why the majority fail to secure any tangible results from higher ideals is because they entertain too many of the lower ideals at the same time. They may aim high, they may adore the beautiful, they may desire the perfect, they may live for the better and work for the greater, but they do not think their best thoughts about everything. And this is the reason why they do not reach the goal they have in view. Some of their forces are building for greater things, while other forces are building for lesser things, and a house divided against itself cannot stand. Superior idealism contains no thought that is less than the very greatest and the very best that the most lofty states of mind can possibly produce, and it entertains no desire that has not the very greatest worth, the greatest power, and the highest attainment in view. Superior idealism does not recognize the power of evil in anything or in anybody. It knows that adverse conditions exist, but it gives the matter no conscious thought whatsoever. It is not possible to think the greatest thought about everything while mind is giving conscious attention to adversity or imperfection. The true idealist, therefore, gives conscious recognition to the power of good only, and he lives in the conviction that all things in his life are constantly working together for good. This conviction is not mere sentiment with the idealist. He knows that all things positively will work together for good when we recognize only the good, think only the good, desire only the good, and expect only the good. Likewise, he knows that all things positively will work together for greater things when all the powers of life, thought, and action are concentrated upon the attainment and the achievement of greater things. To apply the principles of superior idealism in all things means advancement in all things. To follow the superior ideal is to move towards the higher, the greater, and the superior. And no one can continue very long in that movement without creating for himself a new world, a better environment, and a greater destiny. To create a better future, begin now to select a better group of ideals. Select the best and the greatest ideals that you can possibly find, and live those ideals absolutely. You will cause everything in your being to work for the higher, the better, and the greater, and the things that you work for now will determine what the future is to be. Work for the greatest and the best that you know in the present, and you will create the very greatest and the very best for your future.